Alright, hello weirdos. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm going to be talking about the worst books that I read in 2022. This is probably the second to last book in this series of books that are kind of, or videos that are kind of like end of the year stuff. I feel ridiculous that it's taking me this long, but you know what, it's fine. I will preface this list by saying that this is just my opinion. No hate towards anybody who enjoyed these books. I didn't. And I actually had a pretty tough time filling out this list. I feel really good about that, because I've tried to read more books that I just enjoy. Plain and simple. I don't think that means my average rating went up at all from past years. I just have read books that are less bad and more good books that I think are good. So this first half of the list, actually, I'm going to start off with talking about all the books that I DNF'd. And I did choose 10. So we're going to be talking about a total of 10 books. And it's also in no particular order. So the first 5 I'm going to be mentioning are all of the books that I DNF'd. So number 1, and these literally are not in order. First one is I Am the Messenger by Marcus Zuzak. I got 43% of the way into this, and I stopped at about 152 pages. I wanted to love this. I thought it was going to be amazing because I loved The Book Thief. I mean, I do love The Book Thief by the author Marcus Zuzak. So I was really excited to read more of his work. And this was not it. So basically, you're following the story of this guy who is a recently out of his teens, who works as a taxi cab driver, and he keeps getting all of these really creepy weird notes that prompt him to do good things in the world. So it was pretty, somewhat interesting, and I honestly just bought it or picked it up because Marcus Zuzak wrote it. And I had to put it down. I couldn't do it anymore. I really thought hard about pushing through, and no, I'm really glad that I didn't force myself to. And the main reason, and this reason is going to come up a lot in the books that I DNF'd, that is being inside the mind of the main character really made me feel really gross and slimy, because the way that the main character talked about women, just as objects, not as individual people, or even people that or people that he was attracted to, that he engages with in a level other than boobs. And to a certain extent I can understand the thought to go oh, boobs, because boobs are awesome, but I just could not get over just the way that he talked about women as just hunks of meat. That made me not feel good. It made me feel icky and gross. And one of the girls that he talks about and interacts in this way is 16. And I was just I just couldn't, because this was set relatively recently. I just couldn't. Personally, do not understand having those thoughts about a 16-year-old. That's that one. I tried. I put a good faith effort in. Next book that I DNF'd is Paper Towns by John Green. This one I got about 33% of the way through, which equates to about 100 pages. I wanted to put this book down so fast, I could not even. So I think I put it down right when the girl goes missing. Holy crap, I wanted to put this book down so fast. It was, again, it was a trash fire, and I had to drop it. I wanted to drop it so bad, but I promised myself that I would give it 100 pages, because maybe I was just making these snap judgments of characters that were unjustified. And 100 pages didn't get any better, and I just Could not. And for basically the exact same reason as I Am the Messenger. So you're following the story about like this guy who doesn't really have like that many friends, who ultimately becomes friends with this girl who winds up going missing, and he like sets off to go find her. Except that he thinks about her as a piece of meat the entire time and is trying to get in her pants the entire time. And as like someone who has dealt with that, with just like men not understanding like no, and not understanding like boundaries, and like when someone says that they're not romantically interested in you, like, yeah, it just, again, I felt really slimy and really icky, like reading this and having to be trapped in this teenage boy's perspective, that really really viewed women in particular as literally just like fuckholes that you could walk around. And like, not saying that you can't write a character like that, but like, in my opinion, you can't write a main character like that and expect me to want to root for this person. I think that'd be a great way to like categorize like a villain or somebody that you're not rooting for. But I just couldn't have it be like the protagonist and like actually want to see him progress at all in his relationship, have him see any success. So that was that one. The next one that I DNF'd was Oil and Ice. This is by Peter Nichols. I got 31% of the way through, and I got to about 92 pages. This was a nonfiction book about like the oil whale industry, whaling ships, all things like that. I think I put it down because at the time I just was like, I can't focus on reading this. I didn't find it very interesting or intriguing, and I just could not. So I put it down, and I actually gave it away, so I don't own the book anymore. And yeah, I don't think that I had any like real problems with it. I just would pick up and read it and be like, I don't know, this book is leaving my brain as I am consuming it. Yeah, so I was just like, am I going to try and force myself through the rest of this book when I'm just like not enjoying this? Or am I going to put it down and focus on other things? And that's why I DNF'd that one. So a little bit anticlimactic, but there you go. The next book that I DNF'd was Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney. I got 33% of the way through and read 118 pages. I was so glad. I felt so free when I put that down. I was reading this for a Goodreads project because it won the fiction category, and I do not understand the hype around Sally Rooney. I find Sally Rooney to be a very pretentious author, and I found this book to be the most painfully pretentious out of the two that I've read. The other one being Normal People. And Normal People I didn't really I didn't really enjoy. I think it actually showed up on my list last year. And this one, I was just like, I just cannot deal with the pretentiousness of a bunch of people like having conversations like around social issues when it really, really felt like author inserty, when you have this one author or one character who is an author writing about authorness and like privilege, and I was just like, stop, like just stop. I can't with you. I do not understand why some of my students like Sally Rooney. I don't get it. It's not for me. Yeah, I do not understand. Like, I don't get it. I really feel like I really felt like I was pulling teeth, and I wasn't going to DNF it because I was reading it for the project, but ugh, yeah, no, it's the pretension for me, for personally. The very last book that I DNF'd would be More Chill by Ned Vizzini. I got 43% of the way through this at 124 pages, and I picked this up because I liked the musical. I think the musical is really fun and a great example of how you can tell the same story and it be really fun and enjoyable, and tell the exact same story in a different format and want to claw my eyes out. And that's how I felt about Be More Chill, the book. You're trapped in a perspective of one character, and the character being this dude who, again, views women as just walking slabs of meat and wants to get in their pants all of the time. And I just couldn't. So the premise of this book is that you have this young man who is very unpopular and desperately wants to be seen as popular so that he can get with a bunch of women and get in their pants. And so what he does is he orders this thing called a squib, and that literally is like an AI that is implanted into his, well, not implanted, he like swallows it. He ingests this implant and it helps him become popular. And I just couldn't. I really wanted to love this book, and I just could not deal with the slime ball factor. I could not. There is a way to write horny characters that does not objectify and view the object of the person's horniness as slowly just slabs of meat that are there for the protagonist's pleasure or to goggle at. And I think a person who really does this well is a book that I'm currently reading called Like a Love Story. That one does really good balance of just the sheer amount of horniness for like people and other forms, but it doesn't feel as exploitative as I think the other books in this so far that I have mentioned have felt. So yeah, I truly just, I think from now on what I'm going to do, if I get that ick from a book, I'm just gonna put it down, because I'm like, you know what, it's not worth it to deal with this all of the time. So I'm very glad that I put those down, because yeah. Okay, the next book that I'm going to talk about is The Enlightenment by Richie Robertson. I fucking hate this book. I hated it so much. It was over 800 pages of pure garbage. That's a little bit of mischaracterization. It wasn't pure garbage. It was just 800 pages of sexism and racism. So this is a book, as you can probably tell by it's about the Enlightenment, just as the title says. It posed itself as a complete history of or a complete encapsulation of all of the writing that was happening during the Enlightenment. And I would say no. I would say it is does not even come close to trying to capture the diaspora of what was happening and the thoughts and the writings on the Enlightenment, because it tends to say a very narrow picture of the discourse that was happening from certain privileged groups, aka white wealthy men, while continuously either not mentioning or severely undercutting the contributions of people of color, contributions and or perspectives of people of color and of women of the time. And it's kind of dealt with in a way where it's like, oh yeah, there were like people of like color writing this, but because of A, B, and C, we're not going to talk about it. Or yeah, there were like all of these like female like people in power, like Catherine the Great and the Medicis, and we're just not going to talk about them because like they didn't really have anything like to say. And I was just like, no, especially when I read books this year, that's literally Catherine the Great, the biography, Portrait of a Woman, I think is the subtitle, where it talks a lot about her contributions and her thoughts and her writings on Enlightenment thought. And I just felt very betrayed and very hurt and very totally like oh my god, why the fuck did I read this? And it was 800 pages. There was zero excuses why different voices and different perspectives could have been included on a book of that size. Yeah, and where it like tries to bring up like voices that were underutilized or brushed over, does it kind of as an afterthought, and or like too little too late when you continuously just completely sideline, and we're not even going to get into some of the factually inaccurate things that were said, or just like giant misunderstandings or miscategorizations of like history, sociology, not sociology, social science, anthropology specifically, and other things that really, really made me mad. If you want to hear more about just me really ranting about this book, I did read this for the BookTube prize, so it is in my like round 1 wrap up, which I will link in the description below. So if you are at all curious of seeing a much more impassioned me pulling out quotes, I put them in a Google Doc because I was so mad of all the quotes that made me mad. So that was that one. So that was really like the worst book that I read last year, by like a mile. Next one, we're just getting into books that really like can kind of be summed up by books that just aren't for me. And there are more books that just weren't for me that I read in the past year, but these 4 I feel like really, or at least the categories that I'm going to mention, were really the ones that like I felt the most strongly about. This first book I'm going to talk about is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I just don't think that Emily Henry is an author for me. What is this about? We have 2 friends who've been friends for a really long time who had some sort of falling out, which I don't think was really well explained and or justified. And they like would take all these vacations together. And so they have to like team up because of reasons to go on this one last vacation. And through the process of this vacation, they wind up falling in love and have sex outdoors on a balcony. I just don't get it. I don't know if it's just me not understanding heterosexuality. I don't understand. I just didn't get it. It just, really was not for me. And that's kind of just how I feel about all of Emily Henry's stuff. I don't want to say call it bad or anything. It just is not for me. I don't get it. I don't connect with these books, and I don't know if it's just a thing with like modern like romance or like contemporary romance, because I don't tend to like a lot of those. I don't know. It just plain and simple was not for me. The next one I kind of cheated and I kind of like included like a series because I just didn't enjoy very much of like any of them, and that would be the like whole Grishaverse. And I think it was compounded by the fact that I had to read so many of them back to back. So the like not getting it that I was feeling was sorely compounded over having to read all of these books for the BookTube prize, because like King of whatever, the sequel to like King of Scars came out. I think it's called Rule of Wolves came out. So I had to read like all of the original Shadow and Bone series, then the Six of Crows duology, and then like the follow-up duology. And it was just a lot of books that I was not feeling, did not understand, and just was not connecting really to like the Six of Crows. Like I wanted to like it, but it just didn't work for me. Don't know why. I've liked other YAs this year, last year at the same time. Something about Lee Bardugo's writing in YA that I like so much in adult just doesn't work for me. And it's really, really hard for me to pinpoint why that is. There you go. That's that one. The next one is Ghost and Throat by an author that I'm going to completely butcher their names at by saying Dorian ni Girota. This one I just did not understand. I just didn't get it. And I don't like it. So this is about a woman who is like philosophizing about her own relationship with motherhood and being a mom. And she finds this poem about this author that has been dead for a really long time and talking it's a poem about like a man, and I never heard of this author before, was not familiar with any of their work, so it was really hard for me to actually like understand what the fuck the author was talking about during the entire book, which I think is like part of a problem that I have with these memoirs that are basically writers like obsessing over like other writers and like going through like a personal journey. I read a few, and yeah, this is definitely my least favorite of I think the in total that I read last year. This I had to read this for the BookTube prize, and I ranked it last because I did not get it. Yeah, just not a super enjoyable and or engaging, like I just didn't get the point. I'm like, why? I don't care. Yeah, that's kind of how I felt about it. I'm trying to remember if there was anything more specific that I wanted to say about this book. It was really well written though. It was very pleasantly written. And the last one that I'm going to talk about is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Taylor Jenkins Reid is a really good author. I think she writes awesome stuff. My biggest thing with Taylor Jenkins Reid though is that she writes about topics that I find so incredibly boring. I do not find stories about rising to Hollywood or the music industry or old Hollywood, anything like that. I find them so tedious. I cannot tell you why. I find them to all be boring because it's all the same fucking story. Like, you have a person who is with their partner, and then, oh my god, they start rising to fame. Their partner, totally there, totally cheering them on. Everything's great. The famous person cheats on their partner, and I just don't get it. Like, and then stuff explodes, and like, maybe there's a drug addiction or two in there. I don't like, it's the same fucking thing, and I just don't care. I just do not care. Yeah, that was Malibu Rising. I gave you a pretty good summary of like half of the plot that happens in this book. The other half is about like relationship between the siblings of this couple, who technically are the main characters, and they're dealing with their own stuff. Some of them have also risen to fame, had their partners cheat on them, or were cheated on their partners, or various other things. And I just don't fucking care. Just did not care. I just did not care about all of these people who were like doing, like, having all of this money, doing all this stuff, throwing a fucking party. I just did not care. I liked that one of them was gay though. I liked that. That was nice. But like, I just don't care. So many people tell me to read Evelyn Hugo. It's gonna be so boring. It is going to be so boring. It's gonna be so tedious. And I can't bring myself to read it. I can't do it. I wish I could love Taylor Jenkins Reid's writing, but the subject matter I just find so boring. If maybe she wrote about something that I found remotely interesting, then I would be interested. Even her newest one, like about a athlete coming out of retirement. Again, not interesting. In my personal opinion, I just don't find that story interesting. I'm not an athlete. I don't get it. Like, I do not understand. And that's okay for me to not understand it. It's okay for, like, somebody else to absolutely love Taylor Jenkins Reid. But it's not me. It's not me. Alright, so there you go. Those are the 10 books that I read last year that I did not like. Or the 10 worst books that I read. So hopefully this year will be better. I don't know. I've read a lot of EmmaAbe Books this year so far. So we'll see. Let me know in the comments down below, what is the worst book that you read in 2022? Yeah, I am going to go lie down in my bed and curl up with the book that I'm actually enjoying right now, and that is Like a Love Story. All right. Bye-bye.